Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Happy Even After podcast, and Happy New Year. This is our first episode of 2022. Hope you all had an awesome holiday and you are recharged and ready to tackle this next year. So first episode of the year is with the most special guest. I was going to say specialist. I don't think that's a real word, but the most special guest, which is my husband. So he has not been on one of these episodes yet, but if you follow me on social media, which I hope you all do, you will have heard me talk about him, or you would have seen pictures of him. So today I brought him on, and we're going to have a little chat and conversation about marriage, about relationships, about blending family, and all of the good things. So he's here with me today, sitting next to me, Jay Suski, my hubby. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. This is a little nerve-wracking, but I'm happy to be here.
It's just a conversation with your wife
I know.
And like 60,000 other people.
I do it every morning over coffee. I'll get through this.
All right. So a little background info. Jay was former law enforcement for 30 years. In the past July of 2021, he retired, officially joined my team as helping me with all things running the business, helping me with the podcast, helping me with the law firm stuff. So we see each other every single day at home and in work. But let's start with, I think, like just a 3-minute of like what our story is and how we met. Do you want to like share it? Can you share it in 3 minutes?
I'll try. It's a long story, but I can try and do it in 3 minutes. Yeah. So it was back in 2011. I was in the midst of my divorce. It wasn't final yet.
I was not his divorce lawyer. I'm just putting that out there.
Definitely not. We wouldn't be here if she was.
No.
So I kind of was exploring the online dating scene. Wasn't really into it. I thought I was bored one night. Let me log on to and create a profile on eHarmony. It was just kind of purely out of boredom. I wasn't really into that whole online dating thing yet. So I did that. I think I went on one date and it didn't really service to anything. But at some point, I'm not sure if you gave me a wink or I gave you a wink. It was either way.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, wink. So we connected on eHarmony in 2011. We went on a date and it went very well.
Yeah.
Very well. Yeah. And the date ended.
Damn, wait a second. He would not kiss me, by the way. First date, I was like all like puckered up and ready for it. And he goes in and like gives me this little kiss on the cheek. I'm like, well, okay, I guess we're not having a second date. He's not that into me. So keep going.
So that's where I was going. We had a great first date and we ended the night. I gave you a kiss on the cheek.
Yep.
And we went our separate ways. The conversations continued over the next few weeks. We had a second date, a third date.
Yeah, we had a bunch of dates, and it was all awesome.
It was great.
And then what happened?
Then what happened is I broke up with Renee.
Yeah, he did.
I did. The timing just wasn't right for me at the moment. My divorce wasn't complete yet, wasn't final, and I wasn't in the space ready to really commit myself fully to Renee at the moment, and I didn't want to hurt her. If we continued on, I knew she was a very special person, but at the same time, if we kept going, it would have probably continued to develop, and I just wasn't in the space. So unfortunately, I did break it off.
So guys, though, here's the thing. Jay has 3 kids, and at the time when we were first started to date, like I had a holy shit moment. Like, all right, I'm dating this guy, really digging him. And he has 3 kids, 3 young kids. And I'm like, I don't know if I can take that on. Like, I don't know if I can handle that. So there was a part of me that wasn't quite ready for that relationship either. So what you did, even though I joke about it all the time and I throw it in your face all the time, all in good fun, was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. Because I'm not sure had we continued at that moment, it would have turned into where we are now. So flash forward, I'll do like the highlights here so we can get into some of the really good stuff. Is we broke up. I went ahead and got married. Oops. got married to someone who was like a life lesson. We'll leave it at that. And when that marriage didn't work, it was so short. It was in and out really fast. I hardly even consider it an event that happened, but it did. Jay and I reconnected, and at that point, it was 2013, and when we did reconnect, we picked up right where we left off, and the rest has been history. We dated 2 years, got married. We've been married 6 years. He's looking at me like, are you going to know this? Yes, we've been married 6 years now. So, and it's been awesome.
It has been awesome.
So I think let's just start with what do you think it takes? We both have a history. We both have lessons that we learned from prior relationships. Like, why is this one so good? Like, what are we doing differently now?
I think that both of us have had life experience in work-life relationships. I think we, at least for me personally, I know we talked about this, that we learned a lot over the years. And I think there's a tremendous amount of respect that we have for each other and trust. I think those are the biggest things to have in a healthy relationship, is to have, a lot of trust and a lot of respect. And obviously a lot of love too.
So, right. I think so too. I think that sometimes love isn't enough. And I think for me, like one of the big things is knowing my own shit that I brought into this relationship, like knowing where I am, like I can be better. So like I know for me, and I think you're the same way, is we're both a little bit conflict adverse. Like we don't want to bring up things that might make the other person upset. And that has definitely been a work in progress. And I think it's something that we call each other out on kind of frequently. Like I think, I mean, not so frequently, but when things come up, like I know when something's on your mind. Like I know how you act. I know like this like vibe that you're giving off. And for a while I was just like, what's his deal? Okay, well, he'll talk to me when he wants to. But now I have learned, like, I'm just like, what's up? Like, lay it out, like lay it on me. Let's just talk about it and kind of deal with it. And so calling each other out. And I think you call me out too on stuff.
Yeah. You can definitely tell when I am feeling a little off, and you call me out as soon as you notice it. As you know, I'm not the type of person to kind of keep my emotions bottled up.
No.
I feel better talking about them, but sometimes it's hard for me to get it out. And with your prompting, it's helpful. It's definitely helpful.
Prompting is like sitting on the other side of the couch, looking at you, being like, hey, what's going on? What are you not saying?
Right.
But you're radiating. Like, I can feel it. But I think when it comes down to it, it's communication. And I think that that's the one thing that we have always done really well. I think that neither of us really gets defensive if there's something that is bothering the other person. I think that we both, we can both listen really well and process it and not immediately react to it, and rather kind of take it in. And I think that that's a big one.
Yeah, I think I still have, I've worked in that a lot. I think that there's times where I have something on my mind that's, it's bothering me, something about whatever situation it might be. It takes me a lot of courage to get it out. And most of the times I don't initiate it. And then there's the prompting. Jay, what's wrong? What's going on, Jay?
I mean, have I ever reacted bad to anything that you've ever brought out?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, likewise. You haven't either.
Right.
And so I think that that's kind of a learning thing. I also think that when you're in a relationship, like how you show up in a past relationship is not how you show up in the current one. Like, I think that you help me to feel really confident and secure about talking about the things that I might have before swept under the rug because I didn't want to deal with it. Like, I feel really safe doing that because I know that your reaction is always going to be really positive, really supportive. Like, you're not going to get angry or defensive. Like, you're going to listen and be like, okay, all right, let's see how we can deal with this.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Communication is definitely important. I think that we high vibe on all those levels.
High vibe.
That's a term that I learned from Renee, by the way.
He's been hanging out with me too long.
No.
Yeah. All right. So what about, I think that something that we do really well is carving out time for just us. So we have, between the two of us, we have 4 kids. So we have, well, not by now, by the time this recording drops, it's going to be 16, 18, 20, 22. The math should be really easy because it's 2 years apart. But yeah, it just took me a second. So we have, over the years, we've had really crazy, busy schedules in households and activities and everyone running in different directions. But I think that we do a really good job of, when the kids aren't with us, of using that time to kind of reconnect and do things that are, that we have fun with and that are together.
Right. Date nights are super important, whether it's, going out to a dinner, or I love to cook. So a date night could be totally staying in and making a dinner, hanging out and watching some episodes. So those times and those moments are super, super important.
And I love to eat what you cook. Right. So it really works out really well.
So not only for us, but I imagine any couple needs to carve out, private time for themselves to reconnect, because life can get busy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll bring this up.
Uh-oh.
No.
Wait, just so you know, we did not pre-plan this. We're just like, we're going to sit down and have a conversation, see what flows. So now maybe I should have planned that a little better.
That's okay. Okay. You'll like what I have to say.
All right.
So prior to my retirement, we each had our own professions. We had our days. We spent our days at our workplaces, and we would come back home, come back together and share about our days. So after we had this conversation about me coming aboard to help with everything that you have going on, I was a little anxious. I wasn't sure how that was going to affect our relationship of our marriage. So, because I think it's healthy, as we've talked, it's healthy to have your alone time, your private time, your time away from your spouse, your partner. So I was a little anxious coming into that space and having that time together a lot more than it had been. But over the last 5 months, I think that we have that type of relationship where we can separate out. It's, time we have to do professional stuff and time home, time taking care of the kids, date nights, watching TV. So I don't think we would be able to do that if we didn't have the relationship that we do have, and that the relationship that we built up to this point.
I agree. Although I don't know how professional it is when I walk into your office and start breaking out in the Running Man to shake off. True story. I'm all anxious or stressed or something, and I walk in and I just kind of break out into dance with no music, because it just makes him laugh, which makes me forget about the anxiety that I might have.
There's been a lot of dancing in my office.
Lately there has.
In the kitchen.
That's true too.
So that's a good sign.
I like to break out in spontaneous dancing. All right. So what challenges do you think that we've had to face or deal with, because I think that it's totally misleading to be oh, everything is perfect all of the time. Our life is wonderful. Come on, guys. That's not real life, no matter how much you like and love your partner. So, there's always challenges. And I think when you add a blended family, you have another whole level of challenges. So let's talk about that.
Let's see, challenges. One of the challenges that I've had to recognize coming with your new ventures and all of your new work, you're very, very busy. You're very, very busy. And your time is wrapped up in a lot of things. And it's not just during a 9-to-5 workday. It's every day, it's all day, and your mind is constantly going. So with my children getting older, I'm finding myself that I'm going to have a little extra time, and I can't be waiting around for you to be like, hey, Jay, what do you want to do? Because I know you have a lot going on. You're busy. You have all this other stuff going on. So I don't know if you call it a challenge, but it's just something that I'm going to have to fill my time with something that's, not waiting for Renee to come entertain me.
You know what? I love that you brought that up because we're watching Ted Lasso. If you guys have not watched that yet, it's such a fun series on Netflix. But there's a particular episode where there's two characters, and the woman wants her alone time and is like desperate, like she's hiding in the shoe closet, like with the stinky sneakers, just to get a few minutes away from her boyfriend, whom she loves to death, but she just needs the quiet time. And when we watched that, we kind of laughed because I totally feel like that's us a little bit. That's sort of how we roll. Like I definitely thrive and need like a little bit of that time just to myself to do something that kind of fills me up or just is alone and like grounds me. And I'm totally an introvert and I have all of like those introvert characteristics. And I know you're going to deny it, but you are totally an extrovert. So you thrive off of like having people around you and like wanting to do stuff. And sometimes we have a little bit of a disconnect there.
We do.
So we've had to have conversations about that. And like, just because I'm one way, I need to not expect you to be that same way.
Right.
And like, I think there was a moment where it was like, I don't understand, like, why don't you want that time too? Like just to yourself. And you're like, I don't understand. Why don't you want me sitting on the same couch cushion as you?
Exactly.
Like, you know, and I think that took a moment of recognizing like we're two separate people and we have to kind of honor and respect who we are, even if it's different and even if we don't quite understand it.
Right. That was a very, very important conversation we had. It kind of woke me up a little bit to recognize that, you know, just because I want certain things and, you know, I want affection, I want, you know, compliments, this and that, you don't necessarily, you operate on a different level where your time and your space in your own space is very important to you. And it's just a different, how we're different as people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a great conversation. And I think it kind of lifted us up a little bit. And I think we see who the other person is at a deeper level.
Yeah, totally. And can respect that.
Yes.
And now like, I understand that for you going out and seeing and maybe being around some of your friends is the thing that makes you feel really good. And the thing that makes me feel really good is like having an empty house and no one's around and the TV's off and it's like pure quiet. Like, you know, those are two different things, but it's just sort of understanding that. So when I say that, you know, hey, I need that time, then you don't get offended or your feelings aren't hurt, which is what happened on Ted Lasso. He totally like was so offended and he was like, his feelings were so hurt until the light bulb moment went off and was like, oh, I just don't understand her.
Yeah. There, I did have those moments where you just wanted your time away. I'm like, what's the deal? Does she not love me as much as I love her? Why doesn't she want to be near me all the time? I want to be near her all the time.
That's so freaking funny.
But yes, it did. It lifted us up. And now there's that mutual understanding that I know how you operate. I know what brings you joy and kind of lifts you up and recharges you. And that's important. And I love that I'm able to kind of understand that now and give that back to you.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, like those are the differences, but the things that we actually enjoy are so very similar. Like we love the same things on vacations. Right. We love to travel. Like we vacation the same way. And so like going away is something like it's so easy. I mean, I would say anyone listening out there and you're trying to figure out like, okay, is this person someone I want in my life for a long-term relationship? Is this someone I want to marry? Like travel with them. You will learn so much about the other person and how compatible you are if you travel, because people have different travel styles. And I think like you see the most unfiltered, raw version of each person when you travel. And, you know, thank God we travel exactly the same way.
I end up in some middle of some dance party at some point, right?
Well, that's true.
On some vacation. But yeah, I remember our first trip together. That kind of was a test, I think. Yeah. More you were testing me than I was you, I think. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No doubt.
If I could travel with this dude, I think he's going to hang around for a little while longer.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I like, I'll never forget our first well, we did Vegas and then we did Nashville, like 2 long weekends, and both of them, when I knew he was a keeper, we were in Vegas. He brought me to a bookstore that had old books, and there was the original copy of Gone with the Wind, which was one of my favorite books as a child. And so I knew, like, just from that, I'm like, holy shit, this guy listens. And we're in Vegas and he's bringing me to a bookstore. Like, what? Which is like awesome because that's totally who I am and not at all who he is. Like, I'm the nerd in the relationship. I'll admit it. And then we went to Nashville. We were away for a long weekend. And I said once, we were sitting on the couch and I said, oh my God, one of my favorite authors, JoJo Moyes, is going to be in Nashville for the release of her new book. What a coincidence. That's so cool. And that was it. I never brought it up again. While we were going out to dinner, he directs the cab or Uber in a different direction, pulls up to this bookstore, and there we are, like sitting outside for the release of this author's book, and she was there. And I think my eyes filled up, and I knew at that moment, like, this was the guy for me, because you're not a book person, you're not like a book nerd like me, and yet you went out of your way to, one, like, listen to me, remember it, and like actually execute on something that meant so much to me. And had we not gone there, I wouldn't even thought twice of it, because I wouldn't have even asked. I'm like, oh, it's our weekend, so why would we do something like that? So that was, those were 2 defining moments for me, because you're always so thoughtful and sweet. But I think that goes to, like, you get my love language. It's time, it's acts of service, things like that. So it's like moments like that for me, I was just like, oh my God, like, this guy.
Yeah, I loved planning those surprises for you. It was fun.
You're awesome like that.
Oh, thanks.
All right. So, what else? All right. Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about, like, our big crazy family and parenting. Because I think that can always, in any blended family, I think parenting can be a challenge. I think you have people who come in with different parenting styles. I think that you often see in blended families, like, lines being crossed between parents disciplining kids that aren't their own. And I feel like we've had a really smooth transition there, even though we haven't always agreed on everything parenting wise, but I feel like the transition has been really smooth. So, what do you think about what's happening in, like, our co-parenting world and blending our families?
I think from very early on, we took it very slow before we kind of introduced the children to each other. And then once we obviously started getting serious and married, I think it's been pretty smooth. I think all the kids get along, they respect each other, but as far as challenges are concerned, I don't know. I don't see any major challenges.
Oh, come on. There has to be something that you can dig into. I mean, I think that if I were to think of, like, really dig, I think you're right. I think on the most, like, important base level, I think our values are the same. So I think that, because that's aligned, a lot of things fall into place as to how we parent our kids. I think that we have had different opinions about things that, we have both shared with each other one way or the other. But, I think going even back to that, the one thing we never did was discipline the other kids.
Right.
We never did that. It was kind of like, all right, you want to ask them to pick up their dirty socks from the couch. That's one thing. But, like, imposing discipline was not, it was, like, not my role to do that for your kids. If there was an issue, like, you were going to do that. And I think that that helped. I think that helped the kids not resent the other.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really had a hard conversation about that. I think it was just understood.
Yeah,
and kind of we understood that space, and we allowed for the parent to kind of take care of that that role.
Yeah, and I think that when we've had parenting differences, it's kind of like asking, like, do you want my opinion about this? We just had this recently.
Yes.
And you're talking and I'm not saying anything and I'm just kind of smiling at you and nodding my head.
So I don't want to hear what she has to say because I know it's the right answer.
But I'm not going to offer it unless it was asked of me. because I mean, it kind of sucks actually when you know something's true and you don't want to hear it. Like you don't necessarily want to hear it, and if it's not the right time to hear it. So in that circumstance, you looked to me and said, what do you think? And I said to you, do you really want to know what I think? Because I'll tell you. And you gave me permission to share, and then you took the information, absorbed it, and that was kind of the end of the conversation. And that was it. So maybe that would be like a tip would be, if you are in a relationship, if you're co-parenting, if there's something misaligned as to an agreement as to how something is being handled, maybe ask the other person.
Yeah,
unless it's directly impacting your household,
if it's something that egregious that has to be handled right in the moment, then absolutely handle it. But if it's something, hey, Renee, I just noticed something about, your son. I want to talk to you about it. Have that conversation. Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, babe, what else?
What else could we talk about?
What else? Like, what's working?
Everything's working, honestly. Everything is working. I'm foreseeing a very long, loving marriage. As our kids kind of grow and they kind of spread their wings, I look forward to, doing more together, enjoying our big, crazy blended family. Mm-hmm. Someday hosting holidays with a big house full of our children and our grandchildren.
Yeah.
But not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. No, not anytime soon. No, not at all. I was just thinking of something and I lost the thought. So I don't remember where I was going with it, but there you have it. So that thought's not coming back to me. It went out the window and left, and that's my life. If I don't stick it on a Post-it note, I will not remember immediately. So Jay is often my Post-it note walking out the door today. You're like, babe, you're forgetting your phone and your water. Right. Babe, the oven's on. That's why I don't cook.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Is it?
What else?
I think that's it. So, that's just sort of some insight into who we are. I can just say, I will say this publicly. I say it to you privately all of the time. I'm so grateful for your support. I'm so grateful for you being next to me in all of this, and wanting to actually work next to me every single day. I know I can get a little crazy. I know sometimes I'm a lot. I know that.
You are a lot, but I love you.
So he knows how to handle me. But I am super grateful for all of that because, I think that when you're with the wrong person, that person can keep you down. They can prevent you from flapping your wings and exploring to see what you're capable of. And I've never had to worry about that. Like, I know that every crazy new idea that I have, you're gonna be like, yeah, babe, go do it.
Or I'll say, babe, maybe you want to wait on that one. And then she says, no, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So that's how it usually goes because I don't like waiting on anything. But when I do that, you are like, all right, then let's do this.
Then let's do it.
Because you're totally supportive. So
very good. I'll try.
So guys, I think the message is there's so much good that can come out on the other side of a divorce, even though it feels horrible, even though like you may be thinking, I'm never going to get remarried or I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. Like, you won't. And you may decide that you are going to get remarried because you find someone who really brings out the best in you. And I absolutely hate the term, that phrase from Jerry Maguire. I hate it. You complete me. Right. I say it over and over again. Like, I hate that term, but it's not about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who gets you, who supports you, who respects you, who loves you. And you're my person. So I would not trade what I have gone through and the relationships I've had that haven't worked out for anything in the world. I would do it all over again, even the hard, really tough stuff, because it brought us together to where we are. Mm-hmm. And I've never been more at peace and happy because I love our life. It's so easy. even the craziness and the chaos and all of that is our life is so easy because you're next to me.
Oh, that's very sweet. No, I agree. If you had asked me 10, 12 years ago if I was ever going to be in this place in my life, this happy, this peaceful, I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. So, and my story through my divorce was not a very easy one, but you can get to the other side. You can find that happiness and that peace in your life. And babe, I'm so grateful for you too. I know it sounds cheesy, and everyone's going to probably giggle and kind of like
I know, no,
roll their eyes, but that's okay.
no. All right, guys, there you have it. We're kicking off 2022 with an inside look into what's behind the scenes in my world with my husband. So next week we will be back with another guest interview. So we will see you soon. That's a wrap.